Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can start growing even when you are completely exhausted. Because I know that as a parent, you could have all sorts of things on your plate that could cause you to be exhausted. As an entrepreneur, you could be, working, grinding away, building your business, and you could be coming home at the end of the day exhausted. And of course, if you're let's say you're working for a company, you're an employee who shows up every single day, like you come home from the office, come home from work, and a lot of times you just mentally depleted as a part of that. And starting to a growth process or to invest time in yourself, like you're already tired and it makes it difficult to do. So what I want to do is I want to show you how you can go from this idea of a survival mode, which you may not realize you're in, into that growth mindset, and how you can start to shift that and start that growth, in little incremental ways that don't overload your calendar, your schedule, or require crazy amounts of energy for you to go do. Now, let me start by asking you a question just to kind of frame everything up right front, okay? Have you ever hit that point where you were like, you're just so drained, you're stretched, you're so tired trying to just push through that the idea of that personal growth feels quite literally out of reach? Like, there's more in you, there's more there, like more that you want to be, more that you want to give, but right now you're trying to get through the day without falling completely apart. I mean, I can tell you, I've been there myself. I've been there more than once. So maybe as a parent, who's always on, who's always needed, always giving, and you're starting to feel like you've disappeared inside of that role of being a parent. Or maybe as the entrepreneur that you are, like the thing that you built, out of your heart and your vision just feels like a grind and not like you're living up to that vision and purpose of what you started this thing for. Maybe you are just clocking in and out of your job and slowly numbing your life away. I mean, I've been there. And maybe you're just wondering, because I know, gosh, I was in this position years ago, like wondering, like, is this what being an adult is all about? Like, those are very real scenarios that you may fall into. Now, some things to understand, some things to know. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're not behind. You're not broken, which are things that people tell me when they're like, well, I get home, I'm exhausted. I'm just behind. I feel unmotivated. I just don't know where to go. I'm broken. I can't figure it out. Like, it's none of those things. It's just that you're exhausted, all right? You've been trying to grow the only way that you were ever taught, with the willpower and the effort that you just don't have right now, which is totally understandable. But what if I told you that you don't have to wait for more energy to come to you, or more time, or the better season of life to start feeling like you again? Like, what if that growth, and it being real and meaningful and sustainable growth, could start right where you are right now, even if you were, maybe feel like you're at rock bottom? So that's what we're talking about today. Not hustle, not hype, not, woo-woo topics, like practical, like structured things, doable steps to help you to improve and to help you to move from this survival mode into something better, one tiny micro shift at a time. All right. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It is an Amazon bestseller with tons of 5-star reviews. It's been out since November, and it's already has, once again, tons of 5-star reviews, but it's impacting thousands of people, helping them to discover their gifts and superpowers, create more value in their lives, live a more fulfilled life and things. And part of it is how you transform your life by discovering your gifts and superpowers and starting to do more with where you're at right now, little bit by little bit, and helping people work through those things. I recommend that you go grab a copy of the book. I'll put a link in the description, or you can go to Amazon and buy it. But I'll put a link in the description where you can go get yourself a copy. It's $10. It's the best $10 you could invest in yourself for 2025. Now, if you're not ready for that, I'll put a free resource down there as well that you can get. Or you can check us out on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, or at thegivermethod.com for additional resources, or so you can get access to all the other places where we are. Now, this topic, as we go through these practical and doable steps, these actionable strategy items, like, these aren't theory in any way. They are real life strategies that, like, I've used myself. I've taught them to people just like you, the overwhelmed parents or burnt out leaders or stuck employees, like, who needed a way forward that actually fits the season where they're in and can fit within their schedules of what they have right now. And if this is something that you're ready for, like, if that's something you want more of and you're like, yeah, I'm on board for that, then stick around through the whole video, because there's going to be tons of value here. Also, go ahead and hit subscribe, ring the bell for notification. Like, let's keep walking, like walking through this together over time. I drop new videos all the time to help you to reconnect with who you are, find you and discover and develop those gifts and superpowers, and creating the kind of impact that doesn't burn you out. Like, You don't need a breakthrough. You just need a rhythm. And it starts right here, right now, where you are, with the small and intentional steps that are built for the life that you're actually living. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's roll through these principles and really start to identify these pieces. So the first one, is all about energy reversal and integrate, how you integrate that as a part of your approach day to day. Because let's be real, we've been taught something that's almost backwards. Most of us think that we need to get our energy back before we can even think about growing in any way. Once I'm less tired, once things slow down a little, then I'm going to work on myself. Then I'll focus on myself. But here's the truth that I wish more people knew. I wish someone told me years and years ago. The right kind of growth doesn't drain you. It actually gives you even more energy to push you forward. So that's what I call this energy reversal approach, okay? It flips that old-fashioned thinking that says that you've got to be rested and motivated first. And in reality, certain types of aligned growth, tiny and intentional steps, can actually restore the energy that you have inside of you. Not because they're easy in any way, but because they're reconnect to yourself and who you are, and in the things that light you up, and take you back to something that you used to be. This is especially important if your brain is running in this survival mode for an extended period of time. Because that foggy, reactive, maybe short fuse feeling, that's not just in your head. Your brain literally shifts when you're under long-term stress. It changes who you are. It becomes harder to plan, harder to make decisions. I don't know if you experience that. It's harder to imagine change in your life, which is why this isn't about forcing yourself to some giant transformation in any way. It's about creating small moments that wake up your system without pushing you over the edge. So here's where I would start. Here's the first place. Do a simple energy check-in for 1 week. So grab a note on your phone, grab a piece of paper, whatever it is, and just start noting what's draining you. And then what actually gives you a little something back in your tank. Not the whole activity, but what specific parts, what things about it. So let's say that you're a parent. Most of the day might feel like complete chaos. I've got 3 boys between the ages of 3 and 15. I understand what that can feel like. But maybe those 5 minutes of connection with your kid before bed. Maybe it's the moment that fills your tank. Or if you're running a business, the client work that might wear you down, but there's those few minutes spent where you're dreaming, you're journaling about a bigger vision, and that gives you a hit of fuel at that point. Whatever it is, once you spot these energy givers, start scheduling micro moments into your day. Start with, it could be a few seconds, 30 seconds, maybe 2 to 5 minutes at most. Nothing fancy. All right, well, I'm gonna do a short walk, and I'm gonna ask myself a question what matters most to me. I'm gonna breathe deeply for 60 seconds while I visualize what I could go build next. They're not obligations. They're just, interruptions to the exhaustion cycle. We're trying to flip our brain out of that moment of, this is just what it is. I'm in my routine. This is my role. This is what I do. It's chaos. I got to go through it, to a new way of thinking. Now you compare that, with reflection. Okay, so that walk, maybe there's a walk you take every so often. Layer in a small piece of growth. That quiet moment that you have at night. Use it to reconnect with who you're becoming. It's not about effort. It's just about realignment. Now this is key if you're someone who feels maybe guilty when you're not being productive. What this reminds us is that growth and recovery don't have to be at odds in any way. They work together. So you don't have to wait until you're fully restored to take that step forward. You just need to choose steps that give you a little more energy as you take each one. Now, if you keep waiting until you have the energy, you stay stuck in this loop, and exhaustion makes growth feel completely impossible to you. Okay? And the lack of growth makes, even more exhaustion. It makes things feel even heavier. But when you flip it, you start choosing these micro practices that restore you. Something that repositions or changes how you've looked at the day or where you've gone through things. It creates this small upward spiral that builds day to day for you, one moment at a time. Now that leads us directly into the second principle, second step, about micro progression moments and having a system around that. When you're wiped out, running on empty, kind of tired, those traditional ideas of progress start to feel kind of like a joke. I've been there. I've felt that way. And so setting a huge goal or trying to overhaul your life sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's it's overwhelming, and that overwhelm usually leads to some sort of an inaction for you. So that's why I want to introduce something that's become real. It's been a game changer for me, as well as many others that I've talked to and that I've worked with. It's this micro progression moment system. I'm all about systems and processes and installing these cycles that you can add into your life in these simple ways. So the whole idea of this one is simple. When your energy is low and your brain is depleted, it needs the small visible win just to remember that like forward is still possible. And why it works is like when you're exhausted, your brain is like reward system, especially the parts like dopamine, is completely out of sync. It becomes harder to feel that little rush that you normally get when you accomplish something. So like when I worked on the book, like did tons of research and everything. And so the research that's out there shows that the tiniest wins, like the smallest things, like ridiculously tiny, can still activate your motivation system in all sorts of ways. So instead of trying to conquer the mountain, you just take one step, and then another. And that is really how momentum builds. So let's talk about how you do that. Like, what do you do? So start with just one area where you feel like you want some kind of progress, and then shrink that down. Like, what's the first action as a part of that? Like, until it almost feels like, keep shrinking those down until it almost feels silly. Like, I'm serious. Like, if you want to write a book, I mean, I've written one, and people are like, oh my gosh, great accomplishment. Like, yeah, cool, but like, your step isn't to outline the chapter or to write one sentence. Like, it's not to write the chapter. It's to write, like, I'm just going to write a sentence. I'm going to write a thought about what I want that thing to be. That's it. Like, I'm going to break it down to something so simple and shocking that when you start that motion, things start to roll out faster. If you want to move your body more, don't think, hey, I'm going to hit the gym every day for hours on it. Like, no, I'm just going to stretch for 20 seconds. I'm going to just take some time each day, just some moments, and do some stretching, or I'm going to do some walking, or I'm going to do something. Like, these steps should be so small that they're just nearly fail-proof. Now, here's where the secret sauce comes in. You track that, even how small it is. Like, I don't care how you do it. It could be it could be sticky notes. It could be something on your phone. It could be an app, a bathroom mirror, like just whatever it is, make it visible, because when you're exhausted, when that brain fog comes in, it forgets what you've done. And it needs a reminder. So seeing those tiny wins, like, they add up fast, and it starts shifting how you feel about yourself. So, when you then do have any of these wins, like, do not skip the celebration. Like, I know it feels awkward to celebrate like one push-up, or I wrote one paragraph, I did stretches, but trust me on this, your brain needs reward signals. It's something to yourself, like, that counts, that's helping. It's still showing up. Giving yourself any sort of a mental high five. Share wins with somebody who gets it. Like, and it's not cheesy. Like, there is neuroscience that comes down to. I've been working on increasing my step count every single day. And so every single day throughout the day, I like send updates to my wife, and I show her on my phone, like, here's where we're at. Here's where I'm at right now. Because I'm trying more and more to have that be a part of that. Like, and just to incorporate that in my own life with something I'm focused on. Now, this is going to matter because when you're stuck in a survival mode, that motivation doesn't come from ambition in any way. It just comes from evidence. Your brain needs it. Evidence that you're not stuck right here, right now, forever. Like, that's like, I still have agency. I can still choose. That change is happening. And when you stop waiting for a feel ready moment, you start stacking these micro wins, you start to shift your identity from that stuck to steady as you move forward. Now, that then leads us into like the third thing, so we've like start to come up with, there's all these things I could do. So the third one's all about decisions, like making decisions and a framework around how you can do that. So let me tell you something that most people don't realize when they're running on fumes. Making any decision is exhausting. Like, so you're probably already like, Jake, you've already talked through 2 principles and you're trying to tell me what things to go do, and I'm already exhausted hearing them. Like, I get it. Maybe it's picking where to eat or what to eat that night. Maybe it's, should I go this way or should I go, like, the smallest things, the tiny ones, like when you, gosh, like I said, there could be things like what to eat, an email, like how should I answer this email, whether I should work out or take a break, like whatever it is, every choice chips away at limited mental energy that you have each day. It's called decision fatigue, and it's a real thing. The research out there shows that the more decisions you make in the day, the more that your brain starts to cut corners. And so if that's even part of your day, helping to make decisions for kids and other people, or as a part of your business or day-to-day in your work, like that's happening. And by the time you go to make decisions about yourself, it's even more difficult. That's why at 6 p.m. you're standing in front of the fridge and it's like a puzzle that you forgot to solve. And you're like, I don't even understand what's in here. Your brain's not broken. It's done for the day. So here's where that shift comes in. Instead of using up the precious energy on stuff that doesn't need your full attention, like let's simplify the stuff that's draining you. Like not by living like a robot in any way, but like by creating enough structure that you don't have to think about some of the hard things or the basic, like let's just keep it simple. I'm all about routine. I'm all about systems and processes because it just makes it easier. It allows me to open up my brain to the things I want to focus on. So here's what you do. Start with just like one day decision, like a 1 day decision audit. Like just go through your day. Just notice the choices that you're making throughout the day, from like, gosh, what am I wearing, to what, should I answer that email later or now? Like whatever it is, write them down, track them in some sort of a note or an app or whatever. And by the end of the day, you're probably going to be surprised how many tiny decisions are eating up the bandwidth in your brain. Now, start cutting out that noise and create like some default routines for things that come up all the time. You might set a morning rhythm, a Monday night dinner that's always the same, or a checklist of how you close out your workday. Like they're not rules, they're just tools that free up the space in your brain. It's the whole Mark Zuckerberg wearing the same t-shirt and jeans every single day so he doesn't have to and hoodie. Like that's one less decision that he has to make. Someone I know one time, they actually added up all of the time they spent looking at their things in the day, and then they totaled that up over a year, and they're like, gosh, I'm getting this much time back in my year by not having to make the decisions about what it is that I'm going to be wearing. And then you can batch decisions. So plan your meals for the week all at once. Like I'm going to set up a block of time where I'm going to do that. I'm going to set a block of time where maybe I handle all my emails instead of trying to respond to them all day long. And where possible, I'm going to use automation. I'm going to delegate. So outside of running the Giver method, I help other businesses, small business entrepreneurs, to create automations and systems and processes as well. And like where possible, you do that. Set up auto payments in your accounts. Use a template for the things that you write often. I've got notes on my phone and on my computer that I use, that I copy and paste for the most common things I send or reply to people all the time. When you're in any sort of a survival mode, your brain is already working overtime just to get through your day. So the unnecessary decisions drain even more energy. And so that's what this idea of the decision minimalization is all about. We're not taking away freedom. We're actually giving you the capacity to focus on what matters the most to you. Now, our fourth one, once again, we're talking small things. What are the little things we can do? So the fourth one is all about this, like, what's the minimum viable growth practice, that you can do? Because, like, honestly, most growth advice out there is built for people who are already feeling great. But when you're completely drained, sometimes that advice adds so much pressure to your plate. Like, you don't need crazy morning routine that takes up an hour, or a vision board that makes you want to take a nap. Like, what you need is a starting point that just fits with where you're at in life right this moment. Not that you're not going to get there, not that those resources aren't great to have, but you just need to meet yourself where you are now. And if you're further along and ready for that progression, great. There's all sorts of resources like in the Giver method or on our site that you could use for that sort of thing as well. So if you're limited though, if you're drained, if you're feeling like I need to get with just what fits in my life now, like that's where this minimal viable growth practice comes in. Think of it like this. If your life is in low battery mode, this idea is going to help you to, like, let's go plug it into a charger that works, with what little power you've got. It's about creating smallest possible actions that still counts as growth. Like, it's not the ideal version in any way. It's just the one that works for, like, when I'm on my most tired days. The power in this sort of an approach is that it breaks all of the, it breaks through the all or nothing traps that people fall into. You don't need to overhaul your life to move forward. You just need a tiny doable win that builds on your momentum. It might not look impressive to the outside world, but it builds something much more important. It's consistency and belief that you're still moving. I was in a place a little over 10 years ago where I was losing my home due to finances. I was having strains in my relationships and with everyone that was closest to me. I was in a job that I completely hated and was driving me crazy. Like, I could go on and on all the places where I was in this deep chasm of feeling stuck as a spouse, as a father, as a employee. Like, I didn't know where I was going. And some of the times the things people were telling me to go do, I'm like, I don't know how I can do that. I don't know how I can, save more money. I want to improve myself by saving more money, or I want to improve myself by putting this sort of a thing, having more patience. It's like I'm just burnt out. I'm trying not to lose it every single day. But what I can promise you is that as I started to implement some of the smallest things, finances, someone was telling me, like, you should be able to live on, 70% of what you make. And then you've got 10% that you do into savings, 10% that you donate, and 10% you invest into other things. And I was like, how do people live on 70%? I can't even, I'm not even living on the 100% I'm making. I'm living under paycheck to paycheck. But started small. I started with every paycheck a couple of bucks, and then let that grow and let that grow and let that grow. And having a discussion with my wife the other day, we're looking at it, and it's like, here we are years and years later, and our life is in a completely different place. We make decisions better. We're in a different financial situation. We're, mentally, emotionally in better places now than we were. And it just started with these micro decisions that we started to make. So let's talk about how you make it real. Pick one area that you'd like to grow in, and then ask yourself, like, what's the absolute minimum I could do here? And I still feel like I can show up in the ways that I need to show up. If it's self-awareness, maybe it's just jotting down one sentence at the end of the day. If it's I need more movement, then maybe it's a deep stretch or a mindful breath that you're taking. Like, if it's reconnecting with purpose, like maybe it's taking just 60 seconds to revisit a quote, or maybe a line from the Giver Method that reminds you of who you are. And then once you've got a baseline action, make it clear and specific, right? Like, write one thought is doable, right? Journaling for a few minutes each day, might not happen, but one thought, that's doable. So, and that's perfectly fine. We're not trying to win out the entire day. We're just trying to, loosen ourselves. Now, the trick that makes it stick is attaching this practice to something that you're already doing. And that way we can call it like habit stacking on top of each other. 1 minute of reflection while you're brushing your teeth. Every day when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to be reflecting on these specific types of things. And I'm taking a deep breath right after I turn off the car to recenter myself. Stack the new on top of the familiar, and it starts to become more automatic in your life, not another thing that you have to remember to do. Now, sometimes you may need a reminder as a part of that. So the whole reason I even wear bracelets is each one is something that reminds me of something that I'm committing to do in my life right now. And when the time comes, and it will, you can slowly start to increase the doses of what you're focusing on, not because you have to, but because your capacity is actually coming back to you. You go from 1 minute to 2 and maybe 2 minutes to 3, but you're not sprinting. You're just layering growth in ways that respects where you are, not where you think you should be. And as you expand a little bit, well, then you're just going to step into where you are then, and then you're going to expand a little bit and you'll step into where you are then. Now, our fifth one is all about identity, reconnection. Because, when you think about it, when you've been stuck in this sort of a mode, trying to just get through the day, it's easy to forget who you actually are. You're not showing up as your best self because most of the day, you're just I'm trying to make it to bedtime, and your life, it starts to feel like a list of maybe roles. I'm a parent, I'm the partner, I'm a provider, I'm an employee, I'm a boss. Where did the you go in all of that? Where is you as a part of that? So you want to have some sort of an identity reconnection ritual. It's not about adding something, overwhelming to the day or anything like that. What are the tiny and consistent moments where you can remember who you are outside of the chaos and out of the just regular roles that you fill every single day? When you're dealing with all the things on your plate and in that survival mode, you have some defaults that you go into. Your sense of self can shrink down to whatever it is that the tasks are that you're doing. So this sort of an idea, this ritual, is about winding back down and slowly and gently, meaningfully, easing yourself back into it. Different research that's out there totally backs this up. There's all sorts of studies that show you are more likely to follow through with actions when they align with how you see yourself. So here's the thing. When you're running on empty, willpower, it's going to fade really fast. But when you start tapping into that deeper sense of identity, the one that feels true to who you are, even small steps forward begin to feel natural again. They're not these crazy goals that you're trying to hit. They're just ways that you're coming back into yourself. And so you can start by what's your, write an identity statement, something that just feels like the real you underneath all the responsibilities. But think about, who you are when you're grounded or aligned. Maybe it's I'm someone who brings peace into the busy moments, or I'm someone who lifts others, just by being present. Keep it short, keep it simple, make it sure it feels like you. Not a version that others expect of you, but the version that feels like home to you. And then put that statement where you're going to bump into it regularly. It could be the mirror, it could be on your dashboard, it could be the back of your phone screen. Read it aloud if you can, or sit with it for a few seconds. You're not just reciting it as an affirmation. You're remembering who it is that you are. And then if you want to take a step further, start collecting the proof of those little moments where the version of you showed up. Did you make someone smile today? Did you notice, beauty in something that's completely ordinary? Whatever it is, write it down. Keep that list, not for performance, but, I'm all about pattern recognition so that your brain starts seeing that isn't just hope, it's actually happening all around you. And so as you start setting up these reminders and these things around you, that's where we start to talk about the environment optimization that you have available to you. Something that rarely gets the credit it deserves is that when, especially as we're trying to grow, is the environment that we're in. You're already exhausted, and every little bit of friction in your space, physically or digitally, can be a thing that tips you from maybe I'll do that thing to I'm not doing it today. It's not about discipline. It's not about it's not even about motivation. It's about the design of it. The spaces we move through day to day are either working with us, or they're quietly working against us, even though we may not realize it. And so your environment is shaping your habits more than willpower ever will. And that's especially true when you're depleted. The studies show how small environmental tweaks, they can lead to big behavior shifts. And the best part of all that is that they don't require extra effort once they're in place. It's a win for anyone who's running on fumes. And so start by doing a friction audit. Walk through your day and watch you're watching a film. Notice what makes things harder than they need to be. Are you a journal and pen buried deep in a drawer, so it makes it more difficult? Is your workspace full of distractions, which is funny because mine has all sorts of distractions, but are you reaching for your phone to decompress, but then you get pulled into hours of doom scrolling instead of that podcast that actually fills up your cup? And once you spot the friction, clear it. Put growth tools, don't put them out of sight, bring them out. Put the journal in your pillow so you're gonna see it. Place the running shoes by the door. Create that focus zone in your office or at your desk so that things that matter are visible to you. It's not about organizing some sort of a Pinterest thing. It's just about removing the tiny speed bumps that drain your energy before you even get started. And then plant yourself growth clues so that you have those little nudges to remind you of who it is that you're becoming. That sticky note with a powerful word on it, the photo that grounds you to something, a reminder on your phone that says, hey, you're doing better than you think. The cues are going to, they don't have to be anything loud. They just something that shows up consistently. And then you can make your something that's really helpful is to make your choices easy. Put the healthy snack on the counter, leave the book open to the next chapter, set your phone to automatically silent distractions during that focused time. Think about, what's the soft trail downhill instead of forcing yourself into climb a mountain every time you want to grow. And there's all sorts of ways that you could approach that sort of a thing. As we start to bring this in and start to wrap it up, if you're here, gosh, if you're still here, first off, thank you. I know how much you're holding right now. And so the fact that you've spent almost 30 minutes and made it through this conversation, that says a lot about where your heart is at and about how ready you are for things to actually start to shift for you. Now, here's the thing I don't want you to miss. You don't have to wait for the energy, a better schedule, or life to magically calm down to start doing these things. You can start right from where you're at right now, tired, busy, stretched thin, and just start to build momentum that changes everything. Everything that we covered today is there's not about doing more or trying harder or anything like that. They're about doing things just a little differently in ways that work with your reality, not against it. You could have simple growth rituals, that last 60 seconds, clear mental clutter, taking that breath, stacking one small win on top of the other. This is how real and sustainable growth begins. What if it wasn't about any sort of a dramatic overhaul in any way? What if it's just about showing up for yourself with a little bit more intention? and letting that consistency unlock something deeper. Like, I've seen these shifts in tired moms who forget they even had a voice, entrepreneurs who thought their spark was completely gone, or employees who feel invisible at work but start reconnecting with their purpose one small step at a time. This stuff works, I promise you. It doesn't require perfection, it just requires consistency and presence. Now, here's your chance to take some sort of action. Like, pick one of the things we talked about, just one, don't overthink it, and then try, don't try to do it all at once. Like, we didn't say stack them all at once. Like, pick one that made your shoulders drop a little when you heard it. The one that felt doable. Start there, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. Because when you move from survival to growth, even the smallest ways possible, like, that energy starts to shift for you, and your clarity is going to return more. Your gifts start to wake back up, and from that place, you stop getting through the day and start becoming a totally different version of you that's been waiting beneath the surface this entire time. Now, if this conversation, if it hits home for you in any way, like, gosh, then that's really is the type of person, like, you're the type of person that should go grab a copy of the Giver Method book on Amazon. Like, it goes deeper into discovering gifts, realigning your life, and building the kind of impact that doesn't just feel good outside, but actually feels like you on the inside. You'll find it on Amazon at thegivermethod.com, or just down in the description, where you can get access to it and its resources. It's got worksheets, all sorts of things like that. And hey, if this video gave you a little bit of a spark, then I would love for you to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who might need it, is maybe possibly carrying that quite heaviness that they've been holding on to a little too long. In the comments, tell me, like, which of the things hit hardest for you, or what's the small step you're going to take this week. Once again, my name is Jake Talbert. I will see you in our next video. Until then, keep showing up, keep giving from your gifts, and remember this, that you don't have to wait for life to calm down to come back to yourself. You're not behind, you're not falling apart, you're not broken. You just one small intentional move away from remembering who you are and having that momentum launch you forward into places that you could have never expected. I've been down this path myself, so I can promise you that every one of these things works. So let's just start there. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in our next video. Have a good one.